Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's absolutely lovely to have you here. Today we are talking about books. I'm so excited about this. To give you an idea of where this selection is coming from, I am dyslexic, so reading does not come naturally to me. So these books are not like highbrow academic books. We've got children's books, we've got graphic novels, we've got picture books, coffee table books. We have the odd traditional book as well, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. I'm talking about some books that I just personally really have inspired my artwork or the way I think about design. If this is your first time here, hello, it's absolutely wonderful to have you. My name is Hannah Bennyhood. I am an artist and architect, and I live and work right here in North London. On this channel, I share my creative journey and the lessons I've learned along the way. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. I'll leave links in the descriptions to all the books as well. And so even if you aren't an artist or designer, these might be like perfect gift ideas for the artist or designer in your life. Okay, let's get started. No whinging, please. We're about to record. Come on, sit down, chill. What do you want from me? Perfect timing. Hey, what do you want? What do you want? Just say hello. Okay, so let's get into it. The first two books I want to share are the books that probably had a real impact on my career, and they're so easy to read, and they're both by the same author. If you have not read these as an artist, honestly, they're a game changer. I highly recommend Steal Like an Artist if you're kind of feeling a little bit stuck or feeling like your ideas aren't original. This book really goes through how kind of nothing is actually original and how you can kind of harness that power and get influenced and inspired by other artists to inspire your own work. I found like this book kind of changed my feelings of like jealousy of other people's careers, if I'm being honest, into like ideas that are actually actionable, influenced by other people's work. So I highly recommend Steal Like an Artist if you have not read it. Now the second one, Show Your Work, is so brilliant if you are struggling with social media. If you are feeling like you need a bigger meaning behind why you're sharing things on socials instead of it just feeling like marketing, I highly recommend this book. It really explains like what you can get as an artist from sharing your process and sharing your work instead of just sort of sharing the finished article. And this book really kind of, I always go to this when I'm feeling like at the end of my tether with social media, which I know can happen with all of us quite often. They're super easy to read, really digestible, jam-packed full of information. I couldn't recommend these two more. Fantastic books. Okay, so the second two books I'm going to share are books when I have done some research about colour specifically. I have a lot of colour in my work, and so these are the two books that I have about colour. Now one of them, Chromophobia, this book, I would say is the most like academic of the books that I'm going to share today. I'm not going to lie, it's a heavy read. It's a heavy read, and I've kind of ended up going through certain chapters of it and pulling out bits that I needed for the project that I was doing, but I haven't just like sat down and read this from beginning to end. This book explores everything from like why we judge things that are colourful, why things that are like white are seen as clean or pure, and you know, the history and the racism and all kinds of stuff that kind of like envelop how we see the world and how we think about colour. So this is a really interesting book if you're interested in that. The second book on colour that I have, which I absolutely love, is The Secret Lives of Colour. This book is so wonderful. I have this a lot of the time just on my bedside table, and if sometimes I'm just trying to get to sleep, I'll read like a page or two on one of the colours. Each page gives you the history about a particular colour and where it comes from. So for example, khaki, if I remember this actually, the word khaki, yeah, it came from Pakistan. I remember reading about this, and it was about the army like putting dirt on their soldiers' uniforms to make sure that they were disguised. And that's how you have this kind of colour, this browny, greeny colour, and that's where the word khaki comes from. It's actually, the etymology of the word is from Pakistan. So yeah, I just love learning about the kind of histories of all these different colours. It's very like, you know, in Devil Wears Prada when she talks about, is it cerulean blue?
That blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room.
Anyway, it feels very like that, like your own kind of history on colour that you can just explore, and I absolutely love this book. My favourite series of all the children's books are Elephant and Piggy. I'm not sure if they even sell these in the UK. I found out about them in when I was in Vancouver. I was actually used to take these out the library, out the children's library for myself to read. I counted it as research because I was doing a project with characters on, but then I just got addicted to them. So Jake ended up buying me the whole set of Elephant and Piggy, and I just absolutely love them. The storytelling is like incredible, top notch. I think the author is a writer on Sesame Street, and I adore the illustrations. They're so simple yet so effective. I find the books quite funny, very heartwarming, and just, yeah, if I'm ever feeling like a bit down, I would read an Elephant and Piggy book, even at the ripe old age of basically 36. Okay, moving on to something a little different. I thought in this I would include a travel guide by Le Cool. Le Cool were a blog, like a travel blog originally, I think, and then they came out with these books. This is the Amsterdam one. I love about these travel guides the graphic design of them. Each page I always feel like it's just absolutely stunning. And if I'm ever getting kind of stuck on a document and I want to kind of present it in a different way, sometimes I will just have a flick through this travel guide. It kind of feels more like a magazine or like a collage artwork. I love the way so many of the spreads in this book kind of break the rules of design, but just do it in a way where you can clearly tell they know all the rules, so they know how to break them. And yeah, I've always loved having a flick through this if I'm doing a certain presentation or a document or something and I'm feeling a bit stuck. I always refer back to this book because I love it. I actually bought this for Jake as a gift, and we went to one of the coffee shops that they recommended in the book, which was a local one, not for tourists. And you know, I'm not going to tell the story on the internet. Next book. Okay, another 2 books from the same author. This is Lizzie Stewart. The first book is Allison and the second book is Walking Distance. These are graphic novels, but they do have like a little bit of writing in them. So Allison is a book all about an artist, and it's just so beautifully illustrated, and it's so interesting to kind of read this story about an artist from her career from the beginning to end. And she grew up in like outside in the country, and she moved to London, and it's such a beautiful read, and the story about art and the art world and relationships and friendships, and so much is tied into this book. And I love that illustrations are gorgeous, and they kind of like wrap together her artwork as well as like illustrated stories, and it's just such a stunning book. I got this book for Christmas this year from my mother-in-law, and I devoured it, and it was so beautiful. After I read this book, I loved it so much, I went and bought Walking Distance for myself, and I think this is even better than Allison. This book is all about the social anxieties of modern living and just like being a woman and being a person who has to survive on the internet, like not as like, you know, a celebrity, just like us who have the internet and our social dilemmas. I'm not gonna be able to explain it very well, but not only are the illustrations absolutely stunning, but the book itself, the story itself is so moving. I've lent this out to a couple of people and they both have said it's absolutely beautiful and they've loved it. So I highly recommend this book, Walking Distance, if you haven't read it already. They've really made me want to write a graphic novel one day. I don't know if I have the chops for it, but yeah, these were just amazing books. Okay, my one and only architecture book. And I'm just gonna give a little shout out to this book, 101 Things I Learnt in Architecture School. I still love this book. The illustrations are so simple, and I think the principles that it talks about are still relevant now. I've had a flick through because I hadn't looked at this book in years. I think this book is a really great present if you have like a young person in your life who's like interested in architecture, or even an architectural student that's maybe in their undergrad. I think this book is like a perfect gift for them. It's really lovely way to kind of summarize a lot of the teachings that you end up learning when you're in architecture school, or to be honest, some of them that you don't quite get when you're in architecture school, but once you're in practice and you kind of flick back through the book, you're like, oh yeah, I see what you were talking about. So yeah, I think some of them are a little bit outdated, but I think the majority of them I still think are really relevant. Also, can we just do an honourable mention for the Architect's Pocket Handbook? I don't think I would have got through university or through my career without it. Honestly, constantly open on my desk because I can't remember anything. How many times do I have to look how high a stair riser is? Honestly, it just wouldn't go in. It's like I still have to look up how big an A4 piece of paper is. Like, how do I not know this information? I don't know. Memory like an actual sieve. Up next, my favourite interior design book, which is Every Room Should Sing. I absolutely love this book. I bought this book just before I started the renovation of Bexhill Art House, and I feel like it really helped me synthesize my ideas. I think a lot of people assume that architects are like naturally good at interior design, but they're very different disciplines, and I really loved reading this book because I feel like it's talking a lot more than about space, which is, you know, what you learn in architecture. I feel like this really talks about how you design a home and how you design something that's actually lived in. The examples in this book are so beautiful, but also the writing I find really informative and really helps you think about how you can tell stories with interior design and how you can make little tweaks to things to make things personal. And I really took this information in for when I was doing Bexhill Art House. Bexhill Art House is an Airbnb that me and my husband run, and we completely renovated it in 2021 ourselves, and for me the whole renovation was all about the interiors, and I really wanted to push myself in terms of my design skills, and so this book really helped me think about each and every single room and how I could make each room really feel like it had its own personality, but also carefully considering how the whole flat worked together so it didn't feel like you were going through a theme park, you know? So yeah, absolutely love this interior design book. Next up is a book that I got recently, actually. I was just having a bit of a self-doubt moment, I suppose, one day, and I was feeling a little bit like I was questioning everything and feeling a bit vulnerable about things I was sharing online, and I saw this book in the Hayward Gallery in the gift shop, and just the title, I bought it off the title. It's a Maya Angelou poem, Life Doesn't Frighten Me, and then it's been paired up with Jean-Michels artworks, and it's just absolutely stunning. And the poem, I think, is just almost feels like mantras reading it, but it's absolutely stunning. And now I just keep this by my bed. And yeah, I just think it's a lovely book and a lovely reminder to like be brave. I definitely think if you are an artist or you're kind of putting yourself out there in any way, shape or form, it doesn't hurt to kind of have a little reminder that, like, you know, it's no big deal. It's okay. It doesn't have to be as scary as it seems. Just keep going. So yeah, I absolutely love this book. Speaking of purchases in gift shops, I think this might be my favourite purchase I've made after an exhibition. I sometimes just have to like keep my head down and like walk through that gift shop because I find it so hard not to buy books after I've seen an exhibition, but I do not regret this purchase. This is the Tim Walker book from his wonderful Things exhibition. And the book itself is just absolutely stunning. This baby pink book with this gold foil, I absolutely love it. And then every single one of the photographs inside was so amazing. I found the whole exhibition really inspiring, and I'm glad that I have this kind of takeaway to sometimes just be able to flick through if I'm looking for some specific inspiration. I had a Tim Walker calendar when I was really young, you know, I didn't even know who he was. I think I just picked it out when I was in WH Smith. I think because I was just attracted to the whimsy of him as a photographer, and I still love him to this day. And yeah, it's one of my favourite books I've got from a gallery show that I have seen. We have a big one up next. This book, can you see? It's called Inside the Body. I saw this book in the Delaware Pavilion in Bexhill, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I saw it and then I went back again and I looked at it a couple of weeks later, then I went back again and I looked at it a couple of weeks later, and I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm just gonna buy it for myself. And it's just this incredible book about bodies. And it has these most amazing illustrations inside that you can kind of lift up and you can explore the anatomy of the body. Not only are the illustrations themselves just so beautiful, I just found it really inspiring that this author is a lino print artist, and I just think it's really interesting to think about how you could use your artwork in different ways. And I love that this lino print artist has decided to publish this book. It's really interesting to think about how your artwork can go into the world in different forms, and like this book and Allison's book has just made me feel like I really would love to do a book one day. They're just such beautiful, tangible things. So yeah, I love this book. It's very cool. Those are my physical books, but I do have a couple of other audio books and books on my Kindle that I would love to recommend. First things first, do I get through a video on this channel without mentioning Atomic Habits? I don't know if I do. Honestly, truly, this book by James Clear changed my life, changed my attitude to my art practice. So if you haven't read it, read it. Atomic Habits is what has got me into drawing every day, and it really has just probably been the best thing that I've added to my life in a long time. Another book that helped me out in my career, especially when I was kind of half working as an architect, half working as an artist, was the Multi-Hyphen method by Emma Gannon. I find this book really helpful when you're kind of straddling multiple careers and wearing multiple hats, and it's kind of quite hard to talk about what you do. I previously made a whole video about how I am a jack of all trades, and this book kind of was part of the process of me kind of embracing that bit of how I work and my career. And last but not least is a book that I wanted to recommend that I listened to via audiobook, and it is called Creativity Inc. Creativity Inc. is a book all about the guy who ran Pixar, and it was about how he did it, how he set up Pixar, how he grew it, what happened when Steve Jobs invested into Pixar, what happened when they merged with Disney and how that was managed. And I just think it's such an incredible resource for thinking about how to run a creative team. I think this book would be so helpful for directors in architecture practice, and I really wish that some of my bosses had read Creativity Inc. It really talks about collaboration, but also about team members having autonomy and really respecting the process of creativity. Also, if you are just like a fan of Pixar, which I am, just to like nerd out and hear about all the processes that it took to get to the films. Like, they talk about all the behind the scenes of Inside Out, which was one of my favorite Pixar films, and how they actually managed to like drag that kind of story out. And it's just a fascinating read, and really great as an audiobook if you find like reading non-fiction tricky. That is my roundup for today. Quite the eclectic mix, so I hope that you enjoyed it and there were some books that you hadn't heard of before. If there are any books that you would recommend, do leave them in the comments and let me know. I'm always got my eyes peeled for like new bits of inspiration. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more. Until next time, take care.